infirmiers, comment faire pour ne pas déborder?
Non, ça ne veut pas dire que nous ne serons pas épaulés. Ça veut dire que nous avons dit que la vaccination était une indication médicale, c'est-à-dire que c'était un colloque entre le médecin et son patient et, je dirais, le passage d'informations éclairées d'un consentement du patient. C'est tout à fait différent de l'acte vaccinal lui-même, dont nous disons très simplement qu'il doit être fait par ceux qui sont habilités à vacciner. Il faut faire la différence entre prescrire un vaccin et faire l'acte vaccinal.
Il faudra une ordonnance dans la deuxième phase et la troisième phase?
Écoutez, en tout cas, il faudra une indication médicale. Nous sommes en train de travailler avec les services administratifs de l'État et le ministère de la Santé. Nous verrons quelles sont les conditions de la mise en œuvre dans les phases qui viendront. Mais vous savez, nous nous concentrons actuellement sur ce qui va être la première phase et sur la médicalisation de l'entretien avec le patient pour que nous arrivions à une indication vaccinale.
Est-ce que vous attendez à affronter une réticence?
Ah ben nous savons, vous savez, nous n'avons pas les yeux fermés, nous savons qu'il y a des interrogations, nous savons qu'il y a des pulsions dans la société de doute, mais vous savez, ce qui fait que nous avons gagné contre la maladie, c'est en grande partie la capacité que nous avons eue de vacciner, et nous n'échapperons pas à cette règle qui est que pour guérir et pour vaincre cette maladie, nous devrons utiliser une vaccination de grande échelle.
Et question assez pratique finalement, parce que oui, comment on choisit le vaccin quand on est médecin, entre Pfizer, Moderna par exemple, qui décide de ça?
Vous savez, aujourd'hui, nous allons être dans une situation où nous allons dépendre des flux logistiques de ces vaccins. Nous n'avons pas aujourd'hui, au 1er janvier, la totalité des vaccins disponibles, la totalité des vaccins validés. Donc nous allons surtout agir avec les vaccins qui auront été reconnus par les agences de santé européennes. C'est ça qui est important, c'est que les vaccins qui seront disponibles seront des vaccins qui auront été validés par les agences de sécurité médicamenteuse européennes. Ce ne sera pas tous les vaccins qui seront en même temps sans avoir passé par le portail obligatoire de la validation.
Patrick Bouet, merci d'avoir accepté notre invitation ce soir, président du Conseil de l'Ordre des médecins.
Merci.
Yes.
Consultation météo avec l'application Malongo. Grand cru biologique et équitable, créateur de machines expresso et dose, fabriquées en France. À retrouver sur malongo.com.
La soirée et la nuit vont être agitées en Corse, Sébastien Léas.
Oui, Marie, des pluies orageuses vont encore se déverser sur la Corse jusqu'à demain matin et les cumuls risquent d'être abondants. Une vigilance orange est d'ailleurs en cours sur la Corse du Sud. Les pluies deviendront plus faibles demain après-midi. Vigilance orange aussi, mais pour la neige cette fois sur les Hautes-Alpes. L'accalmie se fera en cours de l'évacuation de la perturbation. Demain, le soleil s'imposera entre la Bourgogne et le Sud. Il faudra parfois attendre la dissipation des brouillards et des nuages
I lit the fire about
vous allez, le soleil sera bien atténué par un épais voile nuageux. Et puis sur le reste du pays, la journée s'annonce bien nuageuse. Sur les côtes de l'Atlantique, des averses localement orageuses et parfois accompagnées de grésil sont attendues demain. Et puis des pluies vont aborder la Bretagne et la Normandie, gagnant également la Touraine et la Nouvelle-Aquitaine l'après-midi. En début de journée, quelques flocons de neige pour même se relier sur les pluies sur les monts d'Arrêt et les côtes du Nord.
This is these speakers, these Ditton 110s. Let's see what it sounds like with the Grundig spheres.
Pour l'instant, c'est l'info avec vous, Cyril Ardo.
That's the spheres.
Emmanuel Macron, interviewé en ce moment par le média en ligne Brut, longuement interrogé notamment sur les violences policières. Rien ne justifie les violences, il faut qu'il y ait à chaque fois des sanctions, a dit le président de la République. J'attends des policiers de l'exemplarité. Le chef de l'État qui annonce la création de 2 dispositifs contre les discriminations et les contrôles aux faciès, une plateforme internet de signalement et un sondage sur cette question. Interrogé aussi sur l'article de 24 de la loi sécurité globale qui prévoit des sanctions dans certaines conditions pour la diffusion d'images de policiers. Demain, les journalistes et les citoyens pourront continuer à filmer les policiers, dit le chef de l'État. Plus la campagne de vaccination contre le Covid-19 approche, moins les Français semblent vouloir se faire...
France Info, ça fait maintenant 1h15 qu'Emmanuel Macron répond aux médias en ligne Brut, une interview qui a commencé par le problème des violences policières et qui se poursuit sur l'islam radical. Cette interview, on l'écoute ensemble. Yannick Falk, Emmanuel Macron a évoqué la question de la colonisation il y a quelques minutes.
Oui, on a fini le travail historique sur l'Algérie, le chef de l'État. C'est l'objet d'une mission qui a été confiée cet été à l'historien Benjamin Stora. qui doit
That's
normalement
both.
formuler d'ici la fin du mois des recommandations
That's
sur la
one.
réconciliation franco-algérienne. Alors qu'en parallèle, eh bien, c'est le président algérien qui a fait le même type de démarche. Une mission de son côté au patron du centre des archives algériennes, mission pour mener un travail de vérité sur les questions mémorielles entre les deux pays. Voilà pour le travail en cours de part et d'autre de la Méditerranée, alors qu'Emmanuel Macron réfléchit depuis plusieurs mois à un geste mémoriel.
Well, I
Lui qui avait qualifié la colonisation
got rid of that video that I was singing on because I thought it was so bad, embarrassing, and I am going through a major depressive episode compounded by the virus because I lost Chewbacca. It's just terrible. He's been gone for 10 days. Let's give this fire a bit of going over, a bit of life. So yeah, very depressing. No. With the baffle that I've just made, there's less smoke coming out the fire. Almost like none really coming out the fire. And what I'm going to do eventually when I get the money, I'm going to plumb in the radiators to the fire, and I'm thinking a good way of doing that would be to run a pipe up this flue, just come in the fire, straight up, through the baffle plate, through this plate in here, which has got holes in it, which should take a bit of working out how to do actually, because obviously when you close the baffle, you can have a pipe there, so maybe it won't work, maybe I won't do that. But I'd like to heat the house, heat the radiators from this fire anyway. And that is pretty good. Temperature never gets that hot. That. Right. I wrote a comment last night on my blog. The first thing I've written on my blog for ages. Shut up. I watched Peter Hitchens interviewed by Owen Jones, and they got onto the subject of is lockdown, has it been a success? Has it been useful? Has it served a purpose? And he made a long opening statement about it where he laid out his view of why it was a necessary evil, even though he was against it. And I slowed the speech down to half speed and typed it all out, his question, which was kind of like a question, you know. I let the guy off because he's talking live, and when you talk live you do have an element of unscripted things that get in the way. Fundamentally, he's completely wrong and missed the point, and the point is that, a bit like listening to Macron today addressing France and the problems of racism and the problems in France, you can't polish a turd in the case of France and racism, and like Macron's laughable suggestions of what they're going to do, you know, set up a helpline to call, set up a panel to come forward and talk about how they're find that life is racist, you know, all these kind of things that they just kick the can down the road, to use the cliche, and, you know, there's no really addressing of the problem. The real to really address the problems, you would have to make drug use much less enforced and more like the rest of Europe, for a start off in France. In France, you've got the highest population of cannabis users with the strictest rules of the usage of cannabis. Getting back to Peter Hitchens, he's not he's completely against marijuana use. I don't know. I think it's like alcohol. I could say I'm against alcohol. Alcohol affects different people in different ways. By and large, alcohol does nothing positive. I lost Chewbacca, I got drunk, I made a Bee Gees video. Look at the fucking state of it. Such a bad video that I've taken it offline. Or made it private. Alcohol loosens people's inhibitions. Alright, but there's a lot of bad things as well. It's not banned, however. There's a lot of money made in it. It brings pleasure. It also brings a huge amount of death and illness and addiction and violence. Marijuana, I'm kind of the same thing, right? If alcohol's legal, why is marijuana illegal? I could see both sides, where for young people it's not good to be in an altered state, you know. It's like, but not everyone's the same. Some people are okay with it and are still sort of the same person they were. Other people, it has a very negative effect. Do you ban it for everybody because of the few? It seems to me that's the principal thing with Hitchens' argument, and that's the problem with it. I think if you look at Holland, that's all you need to know. It's like, and looking at the virus, if you look at Sweden and the lockdown, that's all you need to know as well. The lockdown has clearly been a monumental, deliberate amplification of the problems. That's why on the Sage Council, and no doubt here, you know, the experts, it's all about managing fear, creating fear. If there's no fear, if nobody talked about this illness, nobody would be aware of the illness. Let's not forget that, you know. And so I wrote this thing last night. I made a blog on it. I blogged about their video, my opinion on it, what I thought about Owen Jones's question and my own response. Didn't really go into much detail about Peter Hitchens' response. That speaks for itself. Yeah, it's just absolute nonsense. It really is. All the ski resorts here are closed. They've closed the lifts. We've just had a huge snowstorm, loads of snow this season. So they're all going to be losing money. I am confined to 20 kilometres of this house, and I'm only allowed out for 3 hours a day. I know a couple of people who've had COVID. One of them is like 77, fit as a butcher's dog, ex-builder, had the COVID, you know. Looking at the statistics and the figures of people who have died this year. How many people in 100,000 population have died, including the people that have died with it in the last 28 days. That means they've died of other things after being tested positive, right? It is farcical. And today I get up and what do I see? The news, NHS staff don't have to have the vaccine. I mean, that's sort of like, that just says everything about what a fucking sham this whole thing is. And I find it so depressing, and maybe that's why I am so depressed, because I can't get over losing my cat and all this crap that's going on. I think the thing about losing a cat is, if you lose an animal when it's old, okay, that goes on that shelf. If you lose an animal when it's young and it gets run over, but you have the body, that goes on that shelf. If you lose an animal when it's young or middle-aged, or whatever, or even old, and you don't have a body, then you want to know what happened to your animal. And that's what really hurts, not knowing. And Chewbacca was my favourite, you know, of the black cats. He was my favourite. And it's fucking... that's fucking life, right? Shit luck. Fire's not doing so well since I poked it. I know, you need good wood. Huh? Open the drawer before you open the door. Otherwise, a room full of smoke. Well, it's picking up. Yeah, that wood, this wood that I got last year is not good. That is probably 8-year-old wood. That is very good. This, when I put it on the fire, yeah, maybe not that piece exactly, but some wood I've got in the cellar that I got last year, I put it on the fire, and still, a year later, I can hear it hissing. There's still water in it, humidity in it. So how much... Geez, I've been talking for 16 minutes. What else can I say that's interesting? Can I say anything that's interesting? It's interesting to me. I've got time to kill, right? I mean, we all have, to a certain extent. I find that when I get up in the morning, I turn on my computer, and I was lying in bed this morning, and I thought, in 1990, nearly 30 years ago, I was 26. And I thought, well, there you go, 26 today, I'm 56. In 1990, there was no internet. I was doing the same kind of tinkering around the edges, living my life the best that I could. And my dad had a bad knee, and he died of stomach cancer in the end of 1991. And he had a bad knee in like 1990, 1989. Now I've got a bad knee, and I'm a bit older than he was. There's a lady down the road. She's called Simone de Beaufort. Beautiful name. And she is 88. She still drives. I was looking for Chewbacca on Sunday, and I took my bike and I was on it, and I did a big circumference of the village, and I came across Simone. She said, "Oh, Jimmy, what are you doing? You look upset." And I said, "Yeah, I am. I've lost Chewbacca." "Oh," she said, and she was like, "You know, what can you do? And maybe you'll find him." But she is so fit. She's so fit. Am I going to live for another 35 years? You know what? Sometimes when I get up in the morning and come downstairs and turn on the computer and look at the things in the paper, I think I don't give a shit if I do or not. Well, I read today about a woman who's Albanian and schizophrenic,